Balfour. I call Ruth Maguire to be followed by James Dornan. Mr Dornan is the last speaker in the open debate. Ms Maguire, please.
Presiding Officer, everyone needs a safe, warm place that they can call home. It's more than just a physical place to live, and as MSPs, I'm sure we'll all know through our casework full well the toll that a lack of such a place can take on folk. The security and roots that a home provides are absolutely essential to physical and emotional health and well-being. And indeed, under Article 25 of the Universal Human Rights Declaration, everyone has a fundamental human right to housing. Scotland already has some of the strongest rights for homeless people in the world. Here, everybody found to be homeless is legally entitled to housing, and most people are provided with settled permanent accommodation. Huge progress in tackling homelessness has been made, but there is so much more to do. I welcome the Ending Homelessness Together action plan and the fact that the Scottish Government accepts all of the 70 recommendations, and I thank the Homelessness and Rough Sleeping Action Group for all their hard work. This is a plan which has people and prevention at the centre, with a shift towards rapid rehousing, which will see homeless people housed in long-term and settled accommodation solution that meets their needs as soon as possible. And the together part of the plan is really important. Ending homelessness will need Scottish Government, COSLA, local authorities, third and public sector bodies all working together. Now, members will have received briefings from a number of organisations who will ultimately be part of the work that sees the aim of the plan, that everyone has a home that meets their needs and homelessness is ended. I think it's a measure of the quality of the work that's been done that the majority of stakeholders have warmly welcomed the proposed actions. Scottish Women's Aid strongly welcomed the renewed focus of the Scottish Government on prevention, however highlight their disappointment at what they describe as a missed opportunity to consider the distinct gender differences and underlying causes of women's homelessness. I agree with them when they say that whilst people experiencing homelessness will share common experiences, an understanding of women and children's distinct experience and the underlying cause of the risk of homelessness is absolutely essential. Women's economically disadvantaged position in the labour market, often in part-time, low-paid, sometimes precarious work, managing child and other caring responsibilities, means that they're disproportionately dependent on the social housing sector. During this 16 days of action, as many of us in this chamber wear white ribbons to show our support for the eradication of violence against women, it would seem ridiculous not to highlight that domestic abuse is a major cause of women's homelessness in Scotland. Scottish Government homeless statistics from 1718 tell us that a dispute within the household, violent or abusive, was given as the main reason for homelessness by 4,395 applicants, 78% of whom were women, and more than half had children on their application. In fact, more women make a homeless application under this category than for any other reason. The recent EHRC report on the state of equality and human rights in Scotland highlighted that evidence presented so far does not capture hidden homelessness. And as we know, these figures around women's homelessness will not really show the full extent of the issue, as many women who are fleeing domestic abuse will often stay in various insecure housing situations or with family or friends before making a homeless application. Domestic abuse is both a cause and a consequence of women's inequality. The Scottish Government's Equally Safe strategy recognises this and highlights homelessness as a factor that can keep women and girls trapped in an abusive home. Earlier this week, the Cabinet Secretary responded positively to my question around the importance of embedding equality and human rights impact assessments in work to ensure that, unlike the UK government policies, which the UN rapporteur assessed as being as if they were compiled by a room full of misogynists who were tasked with making a system that worked better for men, but not women, that we can and will do better here in Scotland and address structural inequalities faced by women and girls. In closing, I welcome the aims and the proposed actions in this plan, but I have to ask the Government to reflect on whether embedding an equalities and human rights approach would have resulted in a plan that better recognised existing inequalities experienced by women and girls and ensured that they were recognised and not repeated and enforced. And I would also ask that in summing up, the Government address the points raised by Scottish Women's Aid and the Scottish Federation of Housing Associations around the need for greater understanding of the gendered nature of homelessness. Presiding Officer.
Thank you. I call